Eli Carter had never liked crowded places. The docking bay of Taralis 9, the biggest trade station in the sector, was more than crowded. It was chaos in motion. Ships from dozens of species floated silently beyond the transparent walls. Cargo drones zipped overhead like silver insects. Alien vendors shouted in languages that his translation chip could barely keep up with. It smelled like engine oil, spices, and something that reminded him uncomfortably of boiled socks. Eli shifted his tool bag on his shoulder and muttered to himself, "All I need to do is fix one relay and get out. Easy." He had just finished a long job on a broken cargo hauler. All he wanted now was a cup of coffee, maybe a few quiet hours in his tiny bunk, but the universe had other plans. Eli was halfway through the docking bay when someone bumped him hard from behind. A large alien, one of those long-armed trail merchants, rushed past without even looking back. Eli stumbled forward, struggling to keep the heavy bag on his shoulder from tipping him over. That was the exact second he crashed into someone else. A soft thud, a surprise sound, and almost like a hiss. And suddenly he was face to face with the most striking alien he had ever seen. She was tall. Not giant, but taller than him by a head. Sleek black fur covered most of her skin, smooth and shiny under the station's lights. Her eyes were golden and sharp, almost glowing. Pointed ears rose high on her head, twitching slightly, and a long, thick tail flowed behind her like a ribbon. Eli froze. She was clearly Vereen, one of the warrior races. He had seen them on the news feeds. Proud, disciplined, always walking like they owned the ground under their boots. "I'm sorry," Eli began, raising his hands in a universal human gesture of peace. But as he stumbled, his hand reached out to steady himself. His palm landed gently, right on her tail. The moment stretched. The noise of the docking bay faded. Even the translation chip didn't dare make a sound. The tail felt soft, warm, alive. The fur against his skin made every nerve in his hand jump. Eli jerked back immediately like he'd touched a live wire. The Vereen woman went completely still. Her golden eyes widened. Around them, 3 other Vereen soldiers turned their heads at once like predators scenting blood. Eli's heart slammed in his chest. "Oh no, oh no, oh no," he opened his mouth. "That was an accident." "I didn't mean to." The woman's tail swished in a slow, deliberate arc. Her ears flattened for half a second, then lifted again. Her expression was unreadable. Calm. Too calm. Then she spoke, her voice low and smooth. "Human, you have touched my tail." "Yes. I mean, I didn't know it was— Look, I'm really sorry." But instead of anger, she nodded slowly. "Then it is done, huh?" "It is done," she repeated, and suddenly every other Vereen in the area dropped to one knee. A ripple of whispers ran through the docking bay. Eli blinked. "Why are people kneeling?" A nearby trader whispered in broken standard. She accepts bonding." "You? Her mate now." Eli's brain short-circuited. "What?" But the Vereen woman didn't laugh. She didn't correct anyone. She simply stepped closer until he could smell something faint and wild on her fur, like the edge of a forest after rain. Her hand came up, palm open, and she pressed it against his chest. "I am Kalira of the Black Fang clan," she said clearly, so everyone could hear. "You have touched my tail. You have claimed me. And I have accepted." "Claimed?" "I didn't claim anything," Eli stammered. "I tripped. This is insane." The crowd didn't care. They watched with fascination. Some whispered bets to each other. Others pointed recording devices. A pair of station guards stopped at the edge of the scene but didn't interfere. This was Vereen clan law, and no one interfered with Vereen law. Kalira turned her golden gaze on him. "Do not fear. You are under my protection now." Eli almost laughed. "I don't need protection. I need coffee and for everyone to stop staring." 10 minutes later, Eli was sitting in a small security office surrounded by a dozen screens. A human diplomat in a crisp white jacket leaned over a console with a worried expression. His name tag read Embassy of Earth, Assistant Diplomat. "You did what?" the diplomat asked flatly. "I didn't do anything," Eli shouted. I touched her tail because I tripped." The diplomat rubbed his temples. "Mr. Carter, do you have any idea what that means to Vereen?" "Yes," Eli snapped. "Apparently it means I'm married now." "Not married," the diplomat corrected automatically. "Life bonded." "Which is worse," Eli groaned. How is it worse? Because marriage can be undone. A Vereen bond can only be broken through a trial of blood or mutual clan rejection. He sighed. Neither of those is easy. Eli leaned back in the chair, staring at the ceiling. I can't believe this. I don't even have a girlfriend back home. On the other side of the glass wall, Kalira stood patiently, her tail swaying like a slow metronome. Two other Vereen warriors flanked her, glaring at anyone who got too close. She didn't look nervous. She looked calm, almost pleased. Why isn't she angry? Eli muttered. She probably considers it an honor, the diplomat said dryly. She's a Black Fang heiress. Her clan is one of the strongest on Vereen Prime. That's not helpful. They brought Kalira into the room. She walked with perfect balance, her boots silent on the metal floor. Her gaze never wavered. She didn't look at the diplomat. She only looked at Eli. You are small, she said simply, but quick. Your reflexes saved me from falling. Eli blinked. I almost knocked you over. Yes, she agreed calmly. But you didn't. The bond was made in a moment of shared danger. This is good. There wasn't danger, Eli said weakly. It was just clumsiness. Kalira tilted her head. Her tail flicked. Danger is everywhere. You stepped into it without fear. I stepped on your tail. The diplomat cleared his throat softly. Kalira, perhaps there's a way to undo this bond? The Vereen woman's expression didn't change. Why would we undo it? Because, Eli said, trying not to yell, I didn't agree to it. Kalira blinked once. You touched my tail. It was an accident. An accident, she repeated carefully like she was tasting the word. Your species does not touch tails by accident. Humans don't even have tails. She tilted her head again as if he had just told her the sky was green. Strange. The diplomat tried for another hour. He explained cultural differences, misunderstandings, human laws. But the Vereen did not care. The docking bay had already logged the incident. A Vereen Council representative had already sent a message. The bond is recognized. When Eli finally left the office, his head spinning, Kalira was waiting for him outside. She fell into step beside him like it was the most natural thing in the universe. Where are you going? Eli asked warily. With you, she answered. I'm going home. Then I will go home with you. No. That's not how this works. She gave him a patient, slightly confused look. That is exactly how it works, Eli sighed. This was going to be a long night. The walk to the residential wing of the station felt like a parade. People whispered and stared as they passed. Some aliens saluted Kalira, others laughed. A pair of human technicians gave Eli a thumbs up like he'd just won the lottery. This is not funny, Eli muttered under his breath. It is not meant to be funny, Kalira said seriously. It is fate. They arrived at Eli's door. He turned to face her. Okay, you can't just follow me inside. Why not? Because it's my room, my personal space. She frowned as if the concept was foreign to her. Your den. Yes, my den. Then I will protect your den. You're not protecting anything. Her tail swayed once, sharp as punctuation. I protect what is mine. Eli's jaw dropped. I'm not you. This is insane. Kalira looked at him for a long time. Then, in a quiet voice that didn't match her warrior stance, she said, Do you not want the bond? The question caught him off guard. Beneath the calm she looked. Uncertain. Not much, but just enough to make his chest tighten. Eli exhaled slowly. It's not that. It's just, I didn't choose it. Her ears flicked down, then back up. Neither did I, but it happened. We honor it, he stared at her. For the first time, she didn't look like a proud alien warrior. She looked like someone caught in something bigger than both of them. Let's just figure this out tomorrow, Eli muttered. I need sleep. Kalira nodded once. I will guard the door. Of course you will, Eli said dryly. That night, as he lay in his bunk, Eli couldn't sleep. The station outside buzzed with life, but his mind replayed the moment again and again. The soft brush of her tail, the stunned silence, the golden eyes. Somewhere beyond the door, Kalira stood silently, probably not moving at all, like a shadow on guard. He had come to this station to fix engines, not to end up in a galactic life bond with a warrior alien. But the universe didn't care about his plans, and deep down, beneath the panic and the chaos, a small, quiet voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, this was only the beginning. The next morning, Eli Carter woke up to the soft sound of someone breathing on the other side of his door. He blinked at the ceiling for a few seconds, hoping last night had just been a bad dream. But when he sat up, reality was still there waiting for him. Kalira, the bond. The tail incident, great, Eli muttered. I'm married to a space warrior. He got dressed and opened the door. Kalira stood exactly where he'd left her, tall, proud, and completely awake. Her tail moved slowly behind her like a banner. She looked at him with calm golden eyes. You survived the night, she said simply. Eli rubbed his face. Yeah, humans usually do. She tilted her head. I have guarded your den. None have approached. He looked up and down the hallway. A couple of human neighbors peeked at them from their doors. One woman gave Eli a grin and whispered, Nice catch. Eli sighed. Okay, listen, Eli said as he stepped into the hall. We need to talk. Kalira followed him like a shadow. Talking is good. They went to the station cafeteria. It was crowded with aliens from every corner of the galaxy. Some ate glowing noodles. Others drank liquids that smoked and hissed. Eli grabbed a cup of plain coffee. Kalira ordered something that looked like blue meat and ate with sharp, neat bites. Eli sat across from her. We can't just pretend this is normal. It is normal, Kalira said, serious as ever. You touched my tail. We are bonded. For you, Eli said, pointing at her. Not for me. She frowned slightly. We are bonded whether you believe or not. Eli sighed, leaning back in his chair. Where I come from, we talk about these things. We get to know each other. We date. You know? Coffee, walks, stupid jokes. Kalira blinked slowly. We shared coffee now. That's not what Eli groaned. You're impossible. She tilted her head again, almost like she was studying him. Humans are strange, yeah, he said. And right now this strange human wants to fix this. Before Eli could say more, a group of Vereen soldiers entered the cafeteria. They wore black and silver armor, their tails wrapped with gold rings, a sign of rank. Everyone turned to look at them. Even Kalira straightened in her seat. The biggest soldier stepped forward. His fur was darker, his ears sharp and scarred. He had the kind of face that didn't need to speak to say trouble. Kalira, he said, his voice deep like rolling thunder. Is it true? Kalira stood. It is. He looked at Eli like he was an insect. This human touched your tail? Yes, the soldier gave a short, sharp laugh. Then this is a joke. The heiress of Black Fang bonded to a softskin. Eli tensed. Softskin? Kalira didn't flinch. There is no joke. The soldier leaned close to her. You are promised to the Red Claw Alliance. You can't bond with a human. Kalira's tail flicked once, sharply. I can and I did. The soldier's gaze turned on Eli like a blade. Then let him prove it. Trial, tonight. Eli blinked. Trial? Kalira's jaw tightened. It is Vereen custom. If a bond is challenged, the mate must prove their worth. I'm not a warrior, Eli said quickly. I'm an engineer. I fix things. I drink coffee. I definitely don't do trials. The soldier grinned in a way that made Eli very uncomfortable. Then you will lose, and the bond will end. Kalira stepped in front of Eli. If he loses, he dies. Eli's eyes widened. Wait, what? Trial is not a game, she said softly. He stared at her. You couldn't have mentioned that earlier? The soldier walked away laughing, his gold rings jingling. The crowd whispered. Kalira stood still, tail flicking slowly behind her. Back in Eli's small room, his heart was still hammering. This is insane, he said, pacing. I can't fight him. He's like 8 feet tall and probably eats nails for breakfast. Kalira stood by the wall, calm. You are my mate. You must fight. No, Eli said. I must survive. She didn't blink. Survive by fighting. Eli ran a hand through his hair. There has to be another way. Kalira tilted her head. You are human. You are supposed to be clever. He stopped. What? Humans are unpredictable, she said. Your kind builds ships from scrap and wins battles with half an army. Use that. For the first time, Eli saw something different in her golden eyes. It wasn't just calm anymore. It was trust. She actually believed he could do this, and that scared him more than the trial. That evening, the trial was held in the Vereen combat arena, a huge circular chamber inside the station. Hundreds of Vereen gathered on raised platforms, their tails swishing like banners. The floor of the arena was smooth and gray. Bright lights shone down from above. Eli stood at the edge wearing a simple combat suit, It was light armor, but to him it felt like he was wearing a tank. His heart thudded so loud he thought everyone could hear it. Kalira stood beside him, her tail brushing lightly against his leg. A silent gesture. "You must not think like them," she said quietly. "Think like human." "That's not very comforting," Eli muttered. The announcer's voice echoed across the arena. "The bond is challenged. Trial begins." The huge soldier, his name was Varric, stepped forward. His armor gleamed. His claws clicked. His tail was wrapped in gold and steel. He looked like a walking tank. Eli wanted to run, but Kalira stood firm and he refused to look weak. The fight began. Varric moved fast, faster than Eli expected. He lunged, claws out. Eli threw himself to the side and rolled, the arena floor hard against his ribs. The crowd roared. Eli scrambled up, heart racing. "I can't fight him head on," he thought. "But maybe I don't have to." He remembered the suit he was wearing. It wasn't just armor. It was Vereen standard issue. And Eli had spent his life working with machines. While Varric circled him like a predator, Eli pressed his fingers against the inside of his wrist pad, finding the control panel. The suit hummed. "What are you doing?" Varric growled. "Fixing a problem," Eli muttered. Eli rerouted the stabilizer system. Something the engineers had forgotten could be overridden manually. A small whine filled the air. When Varric lunged again, Eli jumped higher than human legs should allow. He landed awkwardly but out of reach. The crowd gasped. Even Kalira's ears twitched. Eli grinned nervously. "Okay, that works," Varric charged again. This time Eli didn't run. He dodged, slid, and used the suit's boosters in strange ways no Vereen warrior ever thought to use. The crowd had expected a quick, brutal defeat. Instead, they watched something strange and new, a human turning a warrior's duel into a puzzle. Varric grew frustrated. His movements became bigger, slower. Eli kept moving, using every ounce of his brain. He wasn't stronger. He didn't need to be. "You fight like a coward," Varric roared. "No," Eli panted. "I fight like an engineer." Then he ducked under the bigger warrior's swing and triggered the magnetic clamps on his boots. Varric tried to twist ways and Eli attached the clamps to Varric's armor. For a moment, both of them froze. Then Varric realized what Eli had done. He was stuck, his own armor dragging against the floor like an anchor. The crowd exploded in shouts. Eli stepped back, breathing hard. "You wanted a fight. Here it is." Varric tried to free himself, but the harder he pulled, the more the clamps held him in place. Eli walked around him slowly, still shaking from adrenaline but forcing a grin. Kalira's golden eyes gleamed with something sharp and proud. Eli tapped the wrist panel again. "Say goodnight." The clamps released suddenly. Varric fell forward with all his weight and slammed into the floor. His claws scraped metal, but he didn't get up. The announcer's voice boomed. "The human stands." "The bond holds," the Vereen roared, some in shock, some in laughter, some in respect. Kalira stepped into the arena and stood beside Eli. She placed one hand over her heart, the Vereen sign of loyalty. "You have fought," she said softly. "You are my mate now, not by accident, but by choice." Eli, still shaking, stared at her. "That wasn't a choice," she tilted her head. "You could have run." He opened his mouth, then closed it again. She wasn't wrong. Later that night, they walked together through the quiet station corridors. The whispers had already begun. A human had won a Vereen trial. It wasn't supposed to be possible. Kalira walked beside him in silence. Finally, she said, "You surprised them." Eli gave a tired laugh. "I surprised myself. They expected strength. You gave them something else?" "Yeah," Eli said softly. "A headache." She looked at him for a long moment. Her tail moved in a slow, relaxed arc. "You are not like others." Eli scratched the back of his neck. "Yeah, I get that a lot." They reached his door again. She didn't follow him inside this time. Instead, she stood at the threshold and said, "The bond is stronger now. No one can challenge it." He stared at her. "I didn't want this." Kalira nodded slowly. "Neither did I, but it is ours." For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Eli sighed and said, "Good night." "Good night, Eli of my tail," she said softly. Eli almost laughed at the ridiculous title. Almost. That night, as Eli lay in his bunk, he didn't feel quite as trapped as before. He had survived. He had surprised a whole species. And for reasons he didn't fully understand. Kalira no longer felt like a stranger. She felt like the beginning of something he hadn't planned. but maybe needed anyway. And somewhere, deep down, a small part of him whispered, "This isn't over yet." Eli Carter didn't expect to become famous overnight, but the next morning when he walked out of his room, everyone on Station Taralis 9 seemed to know his name. Some pointed, some smiled, some saluted him like he was a hero. A pair of young Vereen even waved tiny banners with his name printed in shaky standard script, Eli of her tail. He wanted to crawl into a vent and disappear. Kylira, of course, walked beside him like nothing was unusual. Her tail moved in a smooth, proud arc behind her. Every step she took had the calm power of someone born for battle and ceremony. Eli, in contrast, looked like someone who had accidentally walked into a royal parade wearing pajamas. "Why is everyone staring at me?" he muttered. "They respect you now," Kylira said simply. "You fought. You won. I tricked a guy with magnets." Her golden eyes turned to him, calm and serious. "You won," Eli let out a long sigh. "I didn't ask for this." "Fate doesn't ask," she answered softly. They reached the docking hub and were met by a tall Vereen woman wearing ceremonial armor, polished to a shine. She had a long white tail with silver rings. She looked important. "Kylira of Blackfang," the woman said in a firm, clear voice. "And human Eli Carter." Kylira straightened instantly. "Counselor Vera." Eli felt small again. Hi." The counselor's sharp eyes studied Eli like he was an insect under a glass. "The bond has been challenged and held. The council has decided the matter must now go to the trial of clans." Eli's stomach twisted. "Another trial? This one is not about blood," Kylira said quietly. "This is about honor." The counselor nodded. "If the bond between Vereen and human is accepted, it will change our traditions forever. It cannot be decided in silence." A message spread through the station within hours. The trial of clans would be held the next day. Delegates from other alien species would come to watch. It wasn't just about Eli and Kylira anymore. It was about whether Vereen society could accept something new. Eli sat in the human embassy later, head in his hands. The young diplomat, the same man who had helped him on the first day, placed a cup of coffee in front of him. "You know," the diplomat said carefully, "you could still back out." Eli looked up. "And what happens then?" "The council annuls the bond. Kylira loses honor. Her clan may be shamed. It could cause political messes we can't clean easily." Eli stared at the dark surface of the coffee. He didn't want any of this. He just wanted to fix engines. He hadn't planned on getting tangled in alien traditions, but then he thought of Kylira, the way she stood beside him in the arena, the trust in her golden eyes, how she had said neither of them had chosen this. But they both stood in it anyway, he sighed. "I'll fight," the diplomat blinked. "You're sure?" "No," Eli said honestly, "but I'm not letting her face this alone." The next morning, the trial of clans began. The central hall of the station had been transformed into something grand. Banners of different Vereen clans hung from the walls. Delegates from other species filled the upper galleries. Even the station governor had shown up to watch. At the center of the hall stood a circular platform. Eli and Kylira stepped onto it together. She was wearing formal black armor with silver trim. He wore a clean jumpsuit and a lightweight control suit under it. His palms were sweating. Across from them, Varric stood again. This time, though, he wasn't alone. Representatives from other clans stood beside him. They weren't here to kill him this time. They were here to judge. Counselor Vera raised her voice. "Kylira of Blackfang, human Eli Carter. Today, the bond between your species is placed before all clans. Speak your case." Kylira stepped forward. Her voice was steady. "He touched my tail. I accepted. He stood against challenge. He fought with no claws, no tail, no fangs. Yet he won. The bond is real." Murmurs filled the hall. Then all eyes turned to Eli. His heart thudded against his ribs. Just say something smart, he told himself. Unfortunately, smart wasn't showing up. "Hi," Eli began awkwardly. "I'm Eli Carter. I'm a human. I fix engines. I like coffee. And I didn't exactly plan any of this." The room stayed silent. "But," Eli continued slowly, "I did stand. I did fight. And maybe I don't have claws or tails, but humans have something too. We don't give up, even when everything is against us." A quiet ripple went through the crowd. "I didn't choose to touch your tail," Eli said honestly, "but I chose to stay. And if that means changing how things work around here, then maybe that's not such a bad thing. Kalira's tail swished once, proud. The trial wasn't just about speeches. The clans wanted proof. Eli and Kalira faced a series of tests, physical, mental, and cultural. It wasn't a fight to the death, but it wasn't easy either. The first test was strength and unity. Kalira had to lead Eli through a course of moving platforms, high jumps, and rotating obstacles. Farine couples used their tails to communicate silently. Humans didn't have tails. Eli improvised. He used hand signals, quick words, and smart timing. At first they were clumsy, but Kalira matched his rhythm quickly. Step by step, leap by leap, they crossed the course together. By the end, Kalira was breathing hard and smiling slightly, not because it was easy, but because they did it as one. The second test was trust. A huge metal gate closed between them. They had to solve two sides of a puzzle simultaneously. If either side failed, the platform would drop them into a cold water pit below. Kalira was fast with combat logic. Eli was fast with machines. Left panel, he called out. Right lever, she answered calmly. Piece by piece, their voices synced like gears in a machine. When the gate finally opened, they stepped out side by side. The crowd of Virene warriors murmured in quiet surprise. The final test was honor. It wasn't about skill or strength. It was about facing the council and declaring what the bond meant. Most pairs would recite traditional vows. But Kalira and Eli were not a traditional pair. Counselor Vera stepped forward. Kalira of Black Fang, do you stand by this bond? Kalira lifted her head high. I do. Eli Carter of Earth, do you? Eli swallowed hard. He could feel hundreds of alien eyes on him. He could walk away right now. No one would blame him. But then he thought of Kalira's calm gaze in the arena. Of how she had guarded his door without complaint. Of how they had moved through every test as a team. Yes, Eli said clearly. I do. The hall fell silent. Then Varric, the same warrior who had challenged Eli, stepped forward. His voice was rough but steady. He is soft-skinned, but he fought with heart. He is strange, but he stood by the bond. I do not like him, but I respect him. That single sentence sent a ripple through the clans. If even Varric, proud and loud, had accepted the human, it meant something. Counselor Vera raised her hand. The council has heard. The bond stands. The hall erupted in a mix of cheers, tail thumps, and alien applause. Kalira turned to Eli. She didn't speak. She just reached out and lightly wrapped her tail around his wrist. Not by accident this time. By choice, Eli smiled weakly. So, this is official? It has always been official, she said softly. Now it is honored. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Reporters swarmed. Other species ambassadors congratulated him. A few humans even offered him book deals. Eli mostly tried not to faint. Later, as the station lights dimmed for the night cycle, Kalira and Eli stood on one of the transparent observation decks. Stars stretched in every direction like rivers of light. It's strange, Eli said softly. What is? A week ago I was just fixing engines. Now I'm part of some interspecies history lesson. Kalira's tail flicked gently. You are more than you think. He laughed quietly. You always talk like that? Yes. He leaned on the railing. I didn't choose this, but I don't regret it. She looked at him with those golden eyes that no longer seemed distant. Neither do I. They stood there in silence for a while. For Eli, this wasn't just about a bond anymore. It was about the way humans had surprised a proud warrior race. About how he had surprised himself, and how something born from a ridiculous accident had turned into something bigger, something real. I guess this means we're stuck with each other, Eli said with a half smile. Kalira's tail curled softly around his arm. We walked together. Not stuck, chosen, Eli let out a breath. Yeah, chosen. A few days later, the station returned to its usual rhythm. But things were different. Virene warriors nodded respectfully when they saw Eli. Human engineers joked less about the tail incident, and more about Eli the bonded. Kalira was no longer just a warrior heiress. She was now part of something new, and Eli Carter, the man who just wanted coffee and quiet, had somehow started a story that would be told for years, because sometimes history didn't begin with wars, politics, or grand speeches. Sometimes it began with one clumsy human and a tale.